Ladies and gentlemen, 2025, January 2nd, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. Really quick market update here since we don't have a lot going on given the fact that we had the market closed yesterday, was the holidays with the new year, and volume still relatively light, I would say. We should expect to see things pick back up next week. Earnings calendar very light as well. So if we actually pull over and look at the earnings whispers, there's not really any earnings this week, so not a whole lot to talk about. But I want to do a quick video just to walk through what setups we are currently looking at and what opportunities we are seeing on both the futures trading and with the stock market. So, what are we looking at right now? We are seeing a bit of a market pullback, and I actually anticipate I'm going to make a couple updates here, but couple updates on the chart, but I'm actually anticipating us to see a bit more of a rollover here. We are testing some support and getting a little bit of a bounce, so a little bit of a rejection off of the support here, but I expect us to actually get a break and head a little bit lower here. Now, I think we are still in a bull market here. I think 2025 will be another up year. I don't think it's going to be as strong and as intense as it was in 2024. 2024, we actually saw the S&P grow something like 24%, I want to say. If I actually pull over this chart here, I want to say we grew about 24%, give or take, with the current little dip that we're in right now. Might have been a little bit more than 24%. So market did really, really well here, really, really strong year. And we saw, as expected, the typical uh, bump higher in the market once the elections were over. So the first couple of weeks after the election, we saw the market really rally. If we go back, I want to say that's right around here, we saw this rally up and then a trade to new all-time highs, and now we're getting a bit of a pullback. So I do expect us to retest the lows prior to the election here. We're actually, if we pull open the daily on the NASDAQ, that is something like back here. So that's election day. I expect us to get somewhat of a pullback to there before we actually head the next leg higher. Now, we're also seeing the Russell start to lag again. That's been a common theme throughout the years. I suspect we're going to see a bit better performance in the Russell, maybe a little bit of a drag in the NASDAQ. That's just my speculation for 2025. I think the Russell may outperform the NASDAQ and the SPY just because a lot of these tech valuations are still like very much overvalued. Things are trading at very high PE multiples and ratios. And I just don't know how much upside we have left unless we really get some substantial earnings growth. So there are some things that we're kind of looking out for that may be not the greatest signs of the market heading higher, but I do think we end the year at least up, somewhere between 5 and 10% is going to be my guess for the S&P. Nasdaq probably to follow that, maybe a little bit behind that, and then I think the Russell may even outperform. So that's just like rough predictions for the year. We'll find out, I guess, as the year goes on, if we're going to be right or not. Again, just my market prediction. But as far as setups that we're looking at right now, I'm going to start with futures, then we'll talk about stocks. I am currently looking at the following. So, would like to get back in on natural gas. Natural gas has had some really good momentum to the upside. We took some profit here, but took it a little bit early. I'm looking to potentially re-enter that and get kind of a final squeeze higher before we find that commitment of traders data kind of go neutral. That's my exit criteria, is when the speculators are no longer extremely bearish and they're back to kind of neutral and trying to buy the dip in natural gas, or when the commercials are starting to back off from buying. And we are starting to see that now. It's reflecting in the commitment of trader data. So this is actually starting to get a little bit exhausted, but I do think there's a little bit more room to squeeze this up a little bit higher, see if we can get a little bit further of a run back to $4 before we liquidate and flush lower. So trying to get back in on natural gas. Lean hogs I like as well, but may have missed that move. The chart obviously looking very negative here and starting to roll over. I don't like to buy when it's already kind of retesting a support level where it may catch a bounce before we head lower. So I would like to be buying kind of if we retest this range here. If it doesn't get back there, then it's just a mistrade. It's not a big deal. Silver I like as well. It's retesting $30 today and a bit of a setup with actually a bit of a rejection, or we're trying to reject this head and shoulders. We got this head, this left shoulder and right shoulder. We draw a neckline here. I've got a neckline drawn actually somewhere around here. I'll redraw one right now. We probably would be looking for this to fall from 35 to 30, probably down to $25 if that pattern really did fully flush out. But I don't know if silver is going to really break. Um, Silver is actually showing a good amount of support here. I do think we might head closer to 28 before we head higher, but right now we're retesting $30 here. Had some good strength today, but yeah, looking to go long on silver. Commitment to Trader data is suggesting that we should go long. Australian dollar, same thing. We're seeing a setup here, but this chart is so bearish that we need to see a reversal confirmation. Same with the euro. I mean, I have this up on I think a 3-year chart, and the euro is just like retesting multi-year lows. Like the last time we were this low was, I don't know, end of 2022. So yeah, the euro, the Aussie dollar, and then the New Zealand dollar are just so beaten up. I mean, New Zealand dollar has to be at multi-year lows here. I mean, we're almost retesting lows of 2022, where I mean this thing was at, yeah, I mean just incredible lows here that we're almost retesting. I mean the risk to reward is starting to look really good here, but we need to see some sort of reversal confirmation before we can get into any of those trades. So just kind of watching it for now. And then Canadian dollar and cotton are close setups, but not quite there yet. Other things I'm looking at is going long on Ethereum or Bitcoin. Both had a pop today, actually a nice little pop. 4% on Bitcoin, Ethereum up about 3%. I've got a couple of stock trades that we're in that we'll talk about. And then I liked platinum here, kind of retesting a support line, and actually had a really good bounce today. We got in around $900. I want to say about 910 we got in, and then we had a nice bounce today as expected on the support line. This is multi-year support here. So if we go back, I mean, this line is tested all the way back to 2022 where we bounced there, having a higher low and then a higher low right now. So I actually expect we may actually get back up here to the thousands, but we'll see on platinum. But that's kind of what we're looking at as far as stock opportunities. I mean, some of the things that I'm eyeing right now, if I scroll through this list, this is my trading view current saved list of stocks that we're paying attention to and commodities futures. Just kind of look at this every day and see what markets are doing what. Things that jump out the most to me. So as far as futures, I guess one last thing I'll highlight is crude oil. I think crude oil is getting to be pretty interesting at these prices, and I do think that we may head higher. We're actually testing a bit of a breakout. I like crude where it's at. I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback to potentially go long there, but I do like crude oil the way it stands. I like bonds right now. I mean, bonds, if we pulled up the TLT, the 20-year treasury, we are seeing this thing testing like multi year, if not decade lows. I mean, this thing has not been at these levels for, I mean, how long do we have to go back to get to that line? I mean, we're talking 2010, 2011. I mean, we're talking a multi-decade low here. I think this is a good opportunity to be buying TLT, and that's kind of my prediction for the year. Now, this is going to be a bit of a bold statement, but I'm going to make it anyways. I believe TLT is going to outperform the market this year. I think the risk to reward is really good. We don't need to see a massive leg higher in order for this thing to be beating, something like the S&P. I mean, if this thing goes up 9% this year, which is really not that big of a move. I mean, if we're talking, what are we at right now? 87. I mean, we moved to like $95, which is just here, like back to where we were last month, and we're already potentially outperforming my maybe market prediction for the year on the S&P, which is between 5 and 10%. TLT, I think, is going to be a great setup, plus the dividend that it gives, about 4%. So I think TLT is a great opportunity. But in terms of actual stock picks, I'm going to go down to my stock charts here. I'm looking at rebuying some Tesla. I did reduce at around $405. We saw a bit of a dip on the delivery numbers today. We got extended up to about 487 before it's now dipped down. We're on kind of a corrective wave here, as I would suggest. We're probably going to head somewhere around 350 is my best guess of where Tesla heads before we head higher. So I'm looking to probably accumulate some either call options or buy more shares down at 350 before we probably head to the next leg higher and either retest as a double top or break higher to somewhere around $500. Other positions, I'm reducing Microsoft and I've been reducing Google as well. So I think Microsoft, if I just pull up my stock layout, and we pull up Microsoft. I've been reducing up around 450. I want to say I took some off the table. I think the NASDAQ was a bit overextended, so I started reducing on Microsoft, and I did the same thing with Google. Google's still showing actually a good amount of strength here, but it's really testing this channel, this kind of mean reversion that we look at here, and this kind of upper standard deviation. We're probably going to retest 180s, I would think, on a pullback. So I've been reducing Google and Microsoft. Others that I like or am considering are AMD. So we'll pull up AMD here. AMD, I think, is just at a steal of a price, and we're kind of retesting this potential double bottom. I actually may consider starting to accumulate some shares or call options here. I just think AMD has been overly beaten up for really no good reason. Stock did really, really well from kind of this 2018 rip up to about $200 a share from where it was sitting at 11 or so. Had some really good, phenomenal growth here, but AMD's just been slacking. If we compare it to like an NVIDIA, I mean, obviously NVIDIA is going to be through the roof here. Just severely outperforming. If we look on a 1 year, just way up, and then a 5 year, AMD's just been way behind. Now, granted, earnings for AMD versus NVIDIA is just night and day difference in growth expectations for the coming year, but I think AMD is a little bit overly beaten up for where it should be. So AMD is something I'm watching. Other stocks that I am watching, just taking a look at my watch list on the side here. MicroStrategy is an interesting one that may be worth going long or short depending on the price. I actually like Chegg at these prices. I don't think Chegg is quite ready to go to zero, I would say, just yet. So kind of just analyzing that. Pull this chart a little bit in here. Chegg kind of testing these lows. I do think we could catch a bounce or an opportunity to head higher. Other positions, I see a dip today on Five Below, which is, I have a pretty good position size on that one, but probably not in an area where I'm going to be adding. That's one of those dollar store brands that's just been overly beaten up throughout the years. I do think we could see an opportunity for that to head higher. I've got price targets around 120, 130 that I'd like to see us get back to. Baidu and Alibaba. I think Chinese, here's the thing, you ask people, what do you think of China companies and China stocks? And obviously with the Trump administration and tariffs and the war, the trade wars in China, everyone is bearish Chinese stocks and they've got all the stimulus stuff going on. I think that could be an opportunity for us to start buying. And I've been accumulating at these prices. I think, a company like a Baidu or an Alibaba, I think they're a little bit overly beaten up. Valuations are low, and I think there could be a really good opportunity to be buying at these prices. Let me just remove one of these drawings. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Alibaba go a little bit lower here, maybe in the low 80s before I start accumulating more. But I think Baidu could be an interesting one at the current prices that it's at right now. So I've got some call options, and I've also got some stock, small percentage in Baidu as well as Alibaba. Coursera has been having a really good year so far. We've been buying and accumulating around the $6 range. We're now trading back up to 8. We actually had a nice little pump where we reduced at a gap fill around 1150, which was a great, hindsight, great move to exit half the position and then rebuy here down in the $6 range that it's tested. Others, Equinor is actually a good one. I think this is a little bit of a mismove for anybody that's watching this, but Equinor, I mean, if you can catch it on the lower end of this channel, this falling wedge channel, I've been buying call options of Equinor, and I've also been buying and accumulating stock. This has been a really good opportunity, and I'm up maybe 40% right now on the options, which is just a little bit of a bounce move from here to here, which is just really nice. Energy companies, I accumulated a small percentage in Devon Energy Corporation, which is catching a bit of a bounce today as crude oil goes up. I think Coinbase could have an interesting year if we see Bitcoin really start to retest the 100,000s and up. I think Coinbase could really rally further. I mean, this chart's just a mess. I mean, look at this kind of mean reversion channel, just all over the place. So, yeah, that one's tough and very volatile. Hard to time that one. I think First Solar as well is going to be an interesting one. I just don't like buying at these prices. I'd like to see it get a little bit lower first. And then I'm in on Target for a gap fill. I'm in around somewhere where it fell here, somewhere around like 110, 120. And the same thing with Crocs for a gap fill. So looking to catch back up. If we go, we're actually looking at the weekly, it should be on the daily. Looking to get a gap fill here, and then same thing on Target. We're looking to get a gap fill up here. Micron is another one that I think is a good opportunity. Earnings miss, sold off dramatically. I think we catch a bit of a bounce, and at least I would think a gap fill back to 103. I like these prices here. I may even add to that position. And then I think Lyft is good as well for a leg higher. And then Charge Point, a little bit more of a risky play, I would say, for me, but I don't see this thing really dramatically falling off the map just yet. I think we have some room to head higher. I like the risk to reward here. We've got a small position in that as well. So it's kind of what we're looking at. I will talk to you guys on Sunday. We'll put out the report again, first one of the year, and we'll actually talk through some of the trades. Like I said, right now, the only position I'm in is Platinum with one share or one commodity position at 910. We're up about 1.8% today, so a nice move to start off the year. So yeah, we'll talk soon, and thanks for listening.